Okay, welcome Elena and Alejandro. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm excited for you to share with our community your well of wisdom about vibrational frequencies and consciousness. So for people in our community, they're going to have varying degrees of understanding about what those terms even mean. So we'll dive into that. But do you want to tell us a little bit about how you guys came to this work full stop and came to doing the work together?
Yes, of course. Do you want to start, or would you like for me to? Okay. So my background is in pharmacy. I am a licensed pharmacist and board certified in functional medicine. So it took me years to transition from very linear way of thinking into looking into the root cause of chronic conditions for most people. And I went from very linear to energy medicine, and then I realized there's something else. There's something else in the biofield, right? There's this biofield, which is wealth of information. It's a record keeper of everything about who we are, our past and our present, and the possibilities of the future, which is all happening in the now. And we started using this scalar wave technology, the scalar wave system. And at first, I started looking into viruses. Why are some of the viruses, like chronic fatigue viruses, Epstein-Barr viruses, why were they coming back for people who were receiving treatments for that, right? And we recognized that in the biofield, the viruses are embedded into the field with emotions based on different unprocessed emotions and different events and situations that were happening in that person's life. And therefore, even though, let's say, the person was being treated, whether it's through traditional medicine or functional medicine, alternative medicine treatments, the viruses would still be coming back. So that was like a big aha moment for both of us, because we were trying to see what we could do together to merge our work together. And of course, that was a big aha moment because we wanted to understand the nature of reality. We're both extremely curious.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, we've read years ago Power versus Force by David Hawkins, who used kinesiology in his work, right? Which is testing one number. He used one number to test the consciousness or vibrational frequency of people. And he created a scale of consciousness based on emotions. And the scale of consciousness goes from 0 to 1,000, 1,000 being a fully integrated experience. And there's a couple of people that we've read that have this frequency throughout history, this frequency of 1,000. And we said, well, we're much more than just one number. So Alejandro and I designed a system that looks at over 30 different categories of each person, because we wanted to know, okay, well, how do we come in? How do we incarnate in this reality? How are we born? What emotions are influencing our birth process? And do we inherit the ancestral emotions and events from generation to generation? And the answer is yes, which science is also showing that it is, right? Because now science is able to look at our genome, and they found the sequencing of 16 different genes based on the trauma that your grandmother experienced now, right? That is translated into your own genetic information, right? And the events and situations and emotions and how you process this information. And then we started reading. By this point, we've read thousands of people, probably over 5,000 people, places. And we realized that everything is energy. We are like the radio stations that are constantly transmitting information and also receiving information. And how we interact with this biofield, which is the record keeper of all, can give you an insight into who each person is, into who you are, and also the nature of reality that we're all a part of.
Oh my gosh, there are like a million questions coming thick and fast.
Yes,
Okay, so when we incarnate, we come in with a particular set of vibrational frequencies across these 30 categories, and then through our lifetime, those presumably can evolve or devolve in all sorts of directions depending on what's going on, and then that's held in this biofield, and then that can end up creating dysfunction in our lives and in our health. And no matter what we do, like you're saying, people can be treated for something, but it keeps coming back because it's vibrationally resonant with where our energy is at, where our energy is stuck or glitching. Is that right?
Yes, our perception is based on the predominant emotion, right? The vibrational frequency they were experiencing. which is a byproduct of the predominant emotion. And that's how we perceive life.
Got it.
Right?
And so our evolutionary journey for people that are interested in whether it be their spiritual evolution and then evolution towards enlightenment, personal growth, psychology, whatever it is, the journey is to clean ourselves up, to clear the frequencies which are of a lower level, which are causing us to experience a reality that is not what we desire because it's resonating with our actual frequency. No matter what we think we want, reality showing up according to our frequency.
Yeah, the reality is a byproduct of us co-creating it, right? So if we're unhappy about something in our life, we have to recognize that we're not the victims or the byproduct of outside, right, reality being created for us. We're actually co-creating this reality. And as far as what do people want? Do people all want to be enlightened? It depends on a person. And this is one of the things that we realize is some people come here and they're not seeking enlightenment, and that is okay because that is their journey. So it's really about staying true to who you are and following your inner guidance of what resonates with you.
But when we decided to drop into this reality, right, before we incarnated, we had three clear intentions, which was number one, freedom, to experience growth, and to experience joy, right? So, and it's all about the type of thoughts that we're entertaining. So if we're making feeling good a priority, so then we're more aware of what thoughts are actually participating in our thinking process more often, you know. And since every thought has its own vibrational frequency, we know that, and we remind ourselves often that feeling good is a priority. Then we're going to be very paying attention closely as to what thoughts we are entertaining the most, and what emotions are being triggered by those thoughts, and then how do we feel when those emotions are being triggered, so we can understand it better on a deeper level, and then it will be easier to transcend it. And then also your knowing increases because your awareness increases. Your awareness that you create with your thoughts increases. Right?
Got it. And so when you have someone that you read, like I've watched some of your awesome videos on YouTube, and you're reading lots of different people and places on the planet, and you have these kind of categories, it's possible people can be in really high vibration in some areas and low vibration in others, right? Like it's natural to have like shadowy areas of one's frequency where I guess those are your weaknesses or your development areas. Like what patterns have you noticed?
Well, it varies from person to person, but absolutely, we've seen people that have frequencies that we call their guiding lights. And most of the time, people that have high levels of creativity, high frequency in creativity, perhaps high frequency in personal growth, but then they might have unresolved emotions in their relationships, right? In their finances, an example, sometimes in their health aspects. It doesn't mean it's about being good or bad, right? Good frequencies and bad frequencies. But those frequencies that are on the lower end of the spectrum, which are below the frequencies of 200, which creates the illusion of separation, right? Separation from the whole, separation from the self. It's an invitation for people to recognize that this is an area that holds the key to your biggest growth potential.
Got it. So that was leading to the next question I had, which was around if people want to elevate their consciousness and their vibrational frequency, it's not like go out there and get happy, right? It's like, where is the block to that natural evolution? And so that's what you do, is help to highlight for people where that shadow is that right?
Yes, pinpoint the root cause of the resistance that the person is experiencing when it comes to the overall perspective of life, and also when we go through the different aspects, we look at the vibrational frequency as of how they relate to each aspect, and when we find the resistance because they're vibrating below 200, then we go deeper into it to understand it better, and then then they will know what is needed in order to transcend it and to experience a greater feeling. So whatever feeling they're experiencing.
I say it's like this. It's like going to the doctor and getting your blood work done, right? There's no needles involved. You know exactly which aspect in your blood test, right? If you're having high cholesterol or insulin issues, you'll know, okay, well, there's dietary changes I can implement, or I can take meds for some people who want to bypass and not incorporate healthy ways of dealing with it. So in our case, we do the same thing. We actually analyze the soul and the personality self that is experiencing life on this planet, and where exactly, as Alejandro said, is that root of where the growth, right, where there's the biggest growth potential. And recently we added 4 new categories, which have been really, really interesting, because what we realize is a person could be balanced in most of the aspects, but then there's aspects that are holding the deeper layers, which is we started looking into the intelligence, the IQ, EQ, SQ, and AQ. And what we realized, sometimes people could be balanced, but there's still that deepest layer, which has to do with programming, right? Our childhood programming. Everything has to do with childhood programming. But those aspects we realized are actually holding the biggest growth potential.
What is SQ and AQ? We've got IQ.
Actually, it's social intelligence. How do you do in social settings, right? And it's interesting, for some people, they go into shutdown frequency, which is 50, disassociation, or fear. So fear is being triggered a lot. And AQ is how well people overcome diversity, stressful situations. What happens? Challenges.
Okay, interesting. So
what is the reaction when that happens? Right?
What's the behavior when that happens? Okay, fascinating. So when you do a reading for someone, so you guys do readings, right? People have to get on the wait list.
Yes.
I want to get that done because
yes. It's called vibrational frequency analysis. Yes.
Okay, vibrational frequency analysis. I'll put links with this video because this is super fascinating. And then they get all the categories read, and it will highlight to them where they are at on that scale from 0 to 1,000 for all the different categories. Okay, are they surprised when you show them the, like, you're under 200 here? Is it like surprising for people, or is it usually like, I already knew that, but you really needed to point it out to me for me to do something about it?
Well, very, very few people that vibrate below 200 actually book us, and for some reason or another. Right. But I would say the majority of people are happy to find out where their untapped potential is, or where they're at when it comes to their level of consciousness that they're experiencing. Right. Because it's a new concept, but the way we break it down and how we explain it, it really broadens their view as of what is possible, right?
Brilliant. It's like a gathering of wisdom into who you are, that you know, like it's taking information from different sources. It's all very valuable, isn't it, to be able to observe yourself from a different perspective with different information. I find this fascinating. And
I was going to say, one thing that I find that is most important for people that we've discovered, it's not so much for some people, yes, it's important to know their vibrational frequency, but for most people, the most important one number they always say, oh my God, they start crying, is their alignment with divine purpose, which means, are they walking their divine path? And that is regardless of the frequency, right? The person can be at 250 and they can be walking 100% their divine path, or they could be at 450, 500, and they could be out of alignment, right? But that is usually the one number that most people will
brings them
peace.
Cry.
Just joy.
That alone is worth it. It's like, well, that is just like the constant underlying human desire, is to know that that on this, as you walk this journey and this whole thing of adulting, which is quite hard sometimes, that please someone tell me I'm doing something right.
Exactly.
Right? Super challenging sometimes. So interesting. So tell me also about, you read places, you read people, it's not just individuals, right, that come to you for readings. You read interesting, famous people from history, you read current public figures, you read locations on the planet.
Yes, we've had people hire us to read their properties to see if their property has high vibration, if it has entities, if it's impacting them from an entity perspective, EMF perspective. Let's say they're wanting to purchase a property and they want to know which property is the best vibrational match. We also read companies. People will hire us to read their company, to read their employees, to see how they can, if the company is not in alignment with the frequency of the person, right? Or the website, different pages of the website. We've done that too, where we've read frequencies of different pages. So then the company owner knows, okay, well, this is the page I need to spend more attention on to raise the frequency of my page, right? Of what I'm presenting to the world.
Yeah.
Right.
That is super interesting, because it's about bringing everything into alignment, right? And having a consistency, like how you're showing up in the world, being consistent with your values and things. And that does extend to your brand and your imagery and your website or whatever it is that you're doing. That's interesting.
Well, everything is energy, right? Everything is about how does it make you feel? So when you actually go into someone's website, the first instinct is, how does it make you feel, right? It's like walking into a building. Does this place make you feel good or not? So it's the same thing.
So interesting. Tell me about two things. First of all, with the current state of consciousness on the planet collectively, with the events of the planet at the moment and the fear energy, is that bringing people's individual vibrations down where they may have been previously quite, I don't want to say together, but vibrating at a high level? Are you noticing that people's individual vibrations are dropping just because they're picking up on the collective fear energy, or?
Yes. Collectively, the vibrational frequency is at 100 at the moment, which is the level of fear. It used to be in the 200s.
Yeah, last year we tested, it was like 230.
Right? So it is based on their perspective. But because of the situation that we're dealing with, that is, totally unknown territory for most of us, is really inviting us to work through our shadows and transcend the shadow aspect, so we can then have a clear view of how life is, right? And in order to do that, we have to remove judgment out of the equation, number one.
Yes, there's a massive polarity. I'm sure you're aware of it, and so is everyone that's listening, right? Of whether it's political polarity, belief systems, right? Everything is being brought to the surface. It's an invitation for all of us to not look at our differences, really, right? Because fear is triggering and expanding on those differences, but coming together and recognizing we're all part of one species, which is humans, right? We're all humanity. And it's about, despite the differences, finding what we have in common, whether it's love for our families, right? Just being a good human being, which I think most human beings are good human beings, and finding those common grounds to have the common conversations, to come together. Because right now, there's this massive split happening, and it's very intentional. So it's recognizing to go above and beyond what is being interjected into our holographic field.
Yes.
Right? To say, I stand for my people. I stand for humanity. I stand for love, for unity. And this is what our work is about. We're teaching people it doesn't matter what someone's frequency is. It's about loving and appreciating your journey, because every human journey is unique to them, right? It's like every flower has its own way of showing up on the planet. And everyone is important. Everyone matters. And this is the most important message that we have for people, that it's not about blaming others. Oh, this is the evil. This is, this is good. It's about rising above those differences and coming together.
I really love how you're multiple times have used the word it's an invitation, because it feels very welcoming. So when we're talking about, oh, I've learned I have a low frequency something, or I'm noticing this polarity and this sense of separation, and it's an invitation, it feels like well, that's a call to action for me. So now I feel empowered, because now I feel like I have a choice to make. And when you were saying before about there is a collective fear energy, but also our individual frequency is being driven by our perspective. So then we do have some sovereignty over our perspective in the face of those things. And so I really love how you're not, there's no judgment or good, bad about the level of frequencies or what's happening. It really is just very helpful information. And then we can utilize that in a really conscious way. Super beautiful. Talking then about frequencies of places, I did watch your video where you read the frequency of places on the planet recently. But what I wanted to ask about beyond the recent readings is just, it interests me personally, and I'm sure it interests other people, about there are particular places on the planet that have high frequency and have had high frequency for a long period of time, things that people consider to be special places, vortexes of energy, or what, that's a real thing.
Yes, yes. There are places that have been impacted by the frequency of the people that live within that area, or the places, if we talk about cities, or we talk about sites,
Sacred
sites and so forth, right? Or buildings also, or lakes, oceans. They are absorbing the information that the people that live within the area is emitting, right? Because we're like radios, we emit and receive information. So by that information that we're being feeding to the source, to the universe, to God, it also is being absorbed by sacred sites, buildings, and places.
Right. But some of the sacred sites that we've read, it's been very interesting. They've been, who built them and why they've been put into place, we don't know. Of course, that's a mystery, right? But of course, they've been built by, I would say, highly evolved beings, because some of the sites that we've read were extremely high frequency. And then over time, they've dropped the frequency. And perhaps because those places have been manipulated with, right? And have, in order to somehow dampen the power that they have. And what they could be the source of, like, the high frequency energy, where people can go in and perhaps receive healing, recharge their water. We read Bosnian pyramids, and that was like one of the highest frequencies years ago. And just recently, Dr. Sam Osmanovic, right? He's been bringing a lot of expeditions into those pyramids, and they found that actually the frequencies inside the pyramids were very high, and plants would grow there. People would have healing experiences. So there are definitely sacred places around the world that are powerful.
Interesting. I never would have thought, when you said that, sacred sites and places have a high frequency, and the immediate go-to initially is because they've absorbed the energy of the people. Whereas I'm just like, oh, well, I just assumed in my mind that they were created on the planet to be like special portals, or there was something about the earth there, or the universe charging energy through that place. But actually, a lot of those places are because they've absorbed energy from highly conscious, high vibrational people. That's super interesting. I never would have thought of that. Do you sense that there are places on the planet that really speak to and call to individuals and their own soul journey and their own vibrational frequency? This whole idea of, when people feel drawn to a place. Do you have a perspective on that?
We've never spoken about it, but I would say from personal, perspective, there are absolutely places that every person is drawn to. We've never looked at a person's frequency and the place that they're drawn to. Well, for us, we have. But overall, yes, it's a matter of tuning in to what resonates with you. If you know who you are, absolutely you'll be called to be in a place that would be a vibrational match to you.
Just paying attention to the way you feel, right?
Yeah.
Paying attention to the way you feel when you're there, and then we could measure the frequency of that place to see if it is a good vibrational frequency place or a match to you, right?
Because I heard on
To know if it was
sorry, Anna.
to know if it was due to the frequency, to know if it was due to the frequency or something else,
or something
right?
else. Because on a side note, I had heard about astrocartography, where they can read like the places on the planets which are good for an individual or good for a couple, where they both have the right lineup, and so that's just always been really interesting to me. So I was excited to talk to you because I wanted to get your take on.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I asked a friend of ours, because I've had this deep feeling of like, we have to go to this one place. I couldn't tell you why, but I've been drawn to that place. And I said, well, can you please take a look using astrocartography? And she said, yeah, this is going to be your place. This is where you have the resonance. And it's interesting because that's why I said, if you tune in and you're listening to what is speaking to you, absolutely, it's showing up. Yes.
And we have to know that everyone has that ability.
Yes.
Everyone has the ability to access the field which contains all of the information, as we call past, present, and future.
Yes.
And it's just about tuning in, paying attention to the way you feel. And the higher you vibrate, since it requires to release the resistance, which turns into energetic blockages that slow down the flow of information, right? Once you release the resistance, then everyone could be a channel of information with practice, right? By releasing that information. And it really doesn't have to be a high vibrational frequency being either, because you can vibrate at 200 and have a moment to where you decide to tune in and connect with yourself and connect with your inner being, higher self, however you want to call it, right? And then seek for the information that you're wanting to experience, or that you want to incorporate into your experience, and the information flows.
I love that. You're so empowering and inspiring for people that it's very inclusionary. It's you can be in a dark place and you don't have to be. You can have a moment of connection. It's not that you must take this journey, you must get to here, and then you can perhaps get a glimpse of the promised biofield. It's like great. It's like empowering and inspiring for people, and it's very motivating to want to learn more when it feels very accessible, when sometimes a lot of information is like, well, you'd have to be special to be able to do that, or you need to take a long time to learn that. And it's like, it's really bringing people back to their birthright to access. I mean, this biofield is part of who they are, right? We each have this information that we're born in with. And like you say, it's just about understanding the shadows and being able to start to clear those. So, how can people like dive deeper with this work? I mean, people can have readings with you if they jump on your wait list to have a vibrational frequency analysis, but you do much more than this, right? You have a beautiful community. So can you tell us a little bit about that community?
Yes, of course. Our community is called the Vibrational Revelations, and this is something that we started a little over probably a year and a half ago. We have a community with people from over 40 different countries around the world. And we meet every single week on Tuesdays. And then, of course, we have all the recordings from previous episodes. We have over probably close to 100 episodes at this point. So people can have a wealth of information from before and learn through that experience, and then join us live. And we have a very interactive, all-inclusive community where we answer questions live. And at the very end, we do something really special, whether it's sending healing to a person that is needing it in our community at that time, that is joining us live, or having an intention to heal different bodies of water, which we also do, or perhaps raise the consciousness and hold the high frequency for the collective, for the human collective. Last couple of weeks ago, we've sent energy to all the political figures around the world for them to have more clarity, guidance, and love.
Love this. Just tell me, with regards to when people, so they come into the membership, you do the reveals, and then you're also doing Q&A so people can get, if they have specific questions they want to ask, then you can provide them tips and guidance, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And it's through readings and understanding of other people, right? This is why we do what we do. We get to understand ourselves with a lot more clarity. Because when you look through the lens of everything is important, you recognize that your journey is just as important and unique. And when people have private vibrational frequency analysis, just knowing where they stand gives them a very clear mirror to look at themselves, perhaps in a way that they've been afraid to see themselves, right? But it is so powerful that just knowing the information creates a massive shift. And then, of course, if they're open to exploring their patterns of blockages, right, and resistance, this is something Alejandro guides people on that journey. This is the journey they choose to take. But then we also read lifetime for people. So first, people will book vibrational frequency analysis, which is where they stand now. But then we also look at their lifetime. What happened between birth and now? And we see this remarkable story that unfolds through numbers. So we look at all the numbers and we look at all the drops that a person experienced. And those drops hold the key to a lot of the events and situations and unprocessed emotions that were also impacting them in a bigger way. And we call those journeys, when we read people's timelines, right? We read their lifetime, we call it the hero's journey. And the reason we call it the hero's journey is because every person can see where they've been and how far they've come. It's really about celebrating your own life and not saying, oh, everything was wrong in my past. No, because your past has brought you to the now, which is the moment to celebrate who you are. So it's a very powerful moment for people to really step into appreciation. And just having that also will raise your frequency.
Yes. Most are like, oh my God, I was there, I experienced that, and it totally matches what I was going through at the moment. You know, they're mesmerized by it. And, but it is really empowering, like Elena said, you know, looking back and, oh my God, pulled myself out of the trenches. I was going through hell, but I'm happy to be here, you know?
It's very, very loving what you're doing, because a lot of the people that are on the journey to expand their consciousness and to heal and to grow and are interested in all these topics will come up against information that would have you focus on everything that is not right about yourself, that you need to fix. And there is a place for understanding the things about ourselves that we need to fix, but there is not anywhere near enough celebration of our life to date and our journey and how far we've come. Sadly, it's part of the whole industry to let me highlight for you what's wrong so that I can help you fix it. That's taken people away from what you're doing, which is this loving recognition of here's the journey you've taken and this is how far you've come, and it's a celebration, and it's really, really beautiful. I'm in awe of what you're doing. So I'm going to make sure that there's links with this so that people can come and find out about frequency readings, coaching with you, Alejandro, if they want to then understand how to evolve through some of those shadows, and also your membership, where it sounds like a really beautifully loving community and so regular and consistent for people to be able to tune in on a weekly basis and learn from you and learn from the readings about the revelations about other people and places. Like you say, we learn through understanding other people, so that sharing community is a great thing to be a part of. Thank you very much for your time. This is super fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you. One other thing I wanted to say about the reason we do our revelations is human beings tend to put other people on a pedestal. And they make someone more than they are, and they make themselves less than. And for us, it's very important to recognize every human being is human. Every being is human. And it's really bringing people down from the pedestal. There's no pedestals. No one is better than anyone.
If there's a pedestal, it resides within.
Within, yes.
Each and every one of us.
Yes. And I think you're very right, because it's an almost, it's an unspoken thing that I don't think many people would walk around and like people listening to this and people interested in learning and growing and achieving their greater potentiality. They're not walking around necessarily thinking to themselves, well, that person's special and I'm not, or that person's evolved and I'm not, or whatever it is. But it's just very much how society creates these hierarchical structures.
Yes.
And the shiny imagery.
Yes.
That's out there, and it's like all the perfection, and it's just like a lot of BS, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all walking around in these meat suits, we're all subject to the same challenges. And so I think that is a powerful part of what you're talking about, is that this person that you might admire or whatever it is, this company, we're all on journeys, right? And you're just seeing one manicured angle of the journey, right? And they're as beautiful and as challenged as each individual might be. And I imagine that people find that very empowering to then reflect on themselves. Well, actually, maybe I haven't been giving myself enough credit.
Yes, definitely. That's usually the case. Yes.
Amazing. Well, it's been wonderful spending time with you, and I think it's fascinating that you have this incredible relationship and this incredible work that seems to come together so beautifully with really different backgrounds and your ability to deliver this into the world. So very pleased to have crossed paths with you synchronistically.
Thank you. Our love is love for humanity and love for all, and really let's just celebrate each other, right?
Yeah. Blessings to you and all your work and everything you're doing. I will be sending my people in your direction so they can find out more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.